GCSEs were hard until I learned this simple lesson about GCSE revision. I used this lesson to achieve 7 9s and 2 8s in my actual GCSEs, and it all started with me before my April Easter break, and I had told myself I was going to revise. I was going to spend 2 weeks doing nothing but revision, and I had told myself that this was going to be extremely hard and the hardest thing I had ever done. And if you're watching this right now and you think GCSE revision has to be hard, it is going to be hard, but you can still enjoy it. And what you need to realize is that the people who achieve the highest grades in GCSEs actually find a way to enjoy their work. They enjoy their revision, and I'm going to tell you what I learned so I can start doing this. So, this is the only way, this is the only thing I needed to consistently revise, and this led me to doing 5 to 6 hours of revision, not just in school but outside of school as well. So, school plus 6 hours or 5 hours of revision every single day for 2 months, and I enjoyed all of it. It actually made me happier, and I enjoyed it more. And the first thing you need to realize is that the first step is the hardest. This is something you will not be told much about for GCSE revision, but it applies to everything. The first step is the hardest. Once you start, it can become a lot easier, because before you start, your mind is thinking about how hard it's going to be, and so there's resistance to taking action because you don't want to do something which is seemingly painful, and it looks like a difficult thing you have to do. But once you take your first step, once you experience it yourself, you will realize it's not that bad. This is something I can actually consistently do. And this leads me on to my second point, which is that hard is relative. And what that means is your perception of what is hard is only relative to what you see. And so when you see something like 2 months of revision doing 5 hours of work every single day, you see that as something hard. But in actuality, if you have the belief that, okay, it's actually not that hard, this is something I can do, and I have the belief that I can do this, and you realize that it's not going to be extremely difficult. And another reason hard is relative is that you your perspective of something is based on other people's perspective of that same thing. So other people will say, there's thousands of people right now saying, oh, GCSEs are so hard, this is going to be so difficult. But if your perspective of this changes, if your belief changes that, okay, this is going to be hard, but it's not that hard in actuality, you can start to take action. You feel more motivation, and you can start to do the work. And you continuously do that, you realize it's not that hard. Something I learned basically was that, okay, this is going to be the hardest thing I do, and it was the hardest thing I did, but the hardest thing I did, the hardest thing I can do, is relative to everything I've done before. So even though this is extremely hard, what I learned is that it can be made easy by just believing having the belief and realizing that it's actually not that crazy difficult. So this leads me on to dopamine. What is dopamine? Dopamine is the motivation molecule. Basically, understand it like this. When you have dopamine, you feel motivation to do something. So I had to take control of all my habits I had during GCSEs to make GCSE revision easier. So what I did was, imagine this is your baseline. If you do something like playing video games, listening to music, watching movies, or eating junk food, your dopamine goes up, but then it drops down lower to your baseline. It drops down to here. So every time you do something like this, one of the bad habits, your dopamine goes down. In actuality, your baseline goes down. This is how things like depression start, because people keep doing this until they're so low that they get depressed. If you do something good, like doing revision or socializing, spending time with friends, or just sitting and having your own thoughts rather than constantly scrolling or something, your dopamine goes up. Actually, no, your dopamine goes somewhat down because it's difficult at the start. Remember, the first step is the hardest, so it goes down, but it goes up. So your baseline actually goes up when you start doing these good dopamine habits, the natural ways that humans were meant to get dopamine, and your baseline goes up. And this is helpful for GCSEs. We can utilize this because it means that our dopamine goes up, and dopamine is the motivation molecule. This gives us so much more dopamine, so much more motivation to do the hard revision. And once we get used to it, we start enjoying it, because we enjoy that feeling of, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this much work, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to do all this work today, and I'm going to keep doing that. That dopamine builds up and you start to enjoy it. This is key for making GCSEs easier and enjoying your work. If you are finding this kind of advice useful, I have a link below to my paid program. You should join it now, because it is just $27 for a one-time purchase, and you will speed up your progress to achieving all nines by clicking on the link below. So if you want to keep doing this consistently, that GCSE revision, what you need to realize is, after you've taken that first step, you gain momentum. And momentum is powerful here, because momentum is, in physics, it's basically the resistance to stop moving. And in this case, momentum is the resistance for you to stop doing consistent revision. If you do revision every single day for 5 hours for 7 days, you will have momentum. Imagine you accelerate, you start doing more revision. That is going to carry you on and keep you motivated. You're going to keep going, and that will keep you consistent. Momentum makes you consistent in this case, because it's like a habit. Your habit is now that you become someone who does 5 hours or something revision per day, past papers, flashcards, all the stuff I've mentioned before. And because you have momentum, it's actually harder for you to stop, and this makes GCSEs easier, and you can start to enjoy it more. And this all comes to do with having discipline and self-motivation to some degree. You will have momentum. It will be harder for you to stop, but sometimes you will have bad days. Sometimes you will get bad results. Sometimes you will get stuck in one place and you don't know how to move forwards. You'll face challenges in your GCSE revision, but what you need to realize is that you should maintain yourself, keep on going, use discipline, self-motivation to carry you along. And what does this look like? This looks like, for example, last year I had done 3 or 4 geography papers and I was making no progress at all. So I felt like, okay, I have a goal to get all 9s in my GCSEs other than English, and this is stopping me. How do I keep going? So in my mind I'm thinking, you know what? I'll just keep going. I've done this much work. I might as well keep going. I put in too much to quit now. There's no point of quitting now. I'll keep going. This is one of the times in my GCSE revision when I felt like I should stop. It's not worth it for me to keep doing this, because I had faced a problem, a challenge, and I was thinking to myself, it would be better for me to continue and better for me to overcome this challenge, unlike the 99% of people who won't get the grade 9s like I'm going to achieve. And I would also imagine results day, what would happen if I kept going, and what would happen if I didn't get the grades I wanted. If I didn't get the grades I wanted, I might look back on this day when I'm struggling in my GCSE geography and think, okay, that's where I went wrong. I'm looking forward into the future. This is what you can do. Look forward towards your results day and think of, what if you fail? Where would you tell yourself that you could have done better? And then do better now. So I use that kind of logic to not fail in anything I did, to keep going, to keep persevering, so that I fully put 100% into my GCSEs, and there's no regrets I could have from not succeeding. Regrets only come from failure. So how do we prevent failure? We just make sure we tried so hard that we can't have the thoughts of, okay, what if I did this better? What if I did that better? We do that now. We keep going, have that discipline, have that self-motivation, use self-motivation to continue, and this will make GCSEs so much easier for you, and you will get so much closer to achieving all 9s in your GCSEs by using this. Use the things I've told you in this video to make your GCSEs easier. Make it so that you can enjoy your GCSE revision by using what I've told you. So you can forget about having the worries of GCSEs being hard or difficult.